All right, you start this one off, Joe.
So today on daily podcast number 3 or 4?
I think it's 4.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a dream come true for me.
Uh-huh.
Wow. We're gonna talk about working from home.
Boom.
Who
Everybody's
does it?
doing
Who
it.
likes it? Can't wait to get out of the house.
Why it sucks and doesn't suck.
So, big winner of working from home is clearly Zoom.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, because now my mom knows about Zoom.
Yeah. My mom knows about Zoom too.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, Zoom is going, say, like Facebook 2016, whereas everybody knows about Zoom now.
That's so true.
Like everybody's trying to get on a Zoom call with you.
I know. I
like,
had that thought earlier today.
You got friends like sending you Zoom invites.
Yeah.
They actually had to suspend trading today, which is March 20. What is today? Anybody know?
6th.
26th.
Yes.
Because people were mistaking Zoom Technologies for Zoom Video, 2 different companies.
Oh,
So they had to pause it. Yeah.
Wait, so our recorders just got way more valuable as well. Because Zoom is the ones that like make this stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But you can see why they'd be confused, like, audio equipment, video.
It's very similar.
So, work from home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to go ahead, and my hot take is I dislike it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Why
Why don't you like it, Joe?
Yeah, what specifically?
Yeah. Bias. Just personal bias against it. No, look, I think there's a couple of things. One is I think ultimately it leads people to feel disengaged with their work and with their team members and with what they do over a period of time. I do think you get some short-term productivity increases because people aren't being distracted in the office by anything, and people aren't poking their head in the door. But I think over the longer term, and especially for small companies, look, for big companies where a role is like, you're one of 55 accounts people and all you have to do is it probably works relatively well. But in a smaller company, I would be willing to bet that a team of people who work together every day ultimately outperform a team of people who are working remote. Then I also think from the employee perspective, you really want to work for a place where where the boss and the manager like knows who you are and knows some of your background context. You do not want to be just a face on a TV screen, because like if you're that, you're just one step above being like an AI.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this earlier, so I guess we were cheating a little bit, but the reason
It's called show prep.
That's true. It's show prep. And so we were prepping for the show earlier, and my counter to that was because we talked about project based, right? Like he said compared to a team in office and compared to a team remotely, those two, you said a team in office would outperform the team working remotely. I disagreed. I thought project basis actually the team remotely would probably be more efficient, cut more costs. You would be probably faster. I do think the quality of the product would be slightly less. But when you take that concept and you compare it over to like a year or 6 months or even like a month, I actually would agree with Joe that I do think the team in office would slowly begin to rise while the other team just is stagnant. So that's my take on that as well.
I think it's really personality based too. I am more efficient. I mean, I'm efficient basically anywhere I am, but I try to.
I'm gonna test that.
You're gonna test how efficient I can be?
Anywhere, yeah.
Anywhere. Okay.
At a Chuck E. Cheese?
I accept that challenge. But I think it is personality based. I think some people thrive at home and some people thrive at being in a office with a bunch of people. It really depends.
I think it's role based as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the type of work you do matters. Like, so Automatic, the company that owns WordPress, is, notoriously, it's everybody's go-to sample for the remote work company. They don't have any central offices. They have quarterly conferences they get people together at. So I think for a developer where you're doing a job which is can be your segment of it can be prescriptive. Like, all right,
Mhm.
you need to code this piece. And then that goes up to somebody who debugs and then to somebody who tests. I think it can work like that. I mean, I think also for creative, a lot of creatives, a lot of writers, designers, you know, you look at freelancers work from home, like work on their own, where, you know, they can be focused and control the environment. So I think it works there. I think for if you're trying to aggressively grow, I think it's if you're trying to grow while at the same time finding product market fit for a company, develop new products, I think it's very difficult to do if everybody's distributed.
Well, we're comparing a company that has always been remote.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure in their hiring process, there are some, questions and personality traits that they look for that are very suitable for working remotely.
I mean, look,
sure,
developers, I
Yeah.
bet love it.
Yeah.
Right? Because developers want to have, you know, they want to code everything and want it to be procedural,
Mhm.
get passed from this to that to this.
They also have different hours, most likely.
Yeah.
They're usually like later
Yep.
later hours than most anybody else.
But I think the general rule of human beings is that over time, functional human to human interactions ultimately create bigger outcomes than proceduralized human interactions. And my case against working from home is ultimately done over the long term. It proceduralizes the interactions.
Yeah. But I do feel like if we're going to take it into the perspective of our time right now, everybody is doing it.
Yeah, sure.
So the
Yep.
downsides are, everything's actually negligible, I would say, because everybody's working from home. So that's just our new normal.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, relative to any competitor, now
Yeah.
everybody's on the same slate. But
Right.
example I would give you is I bet the people working in the labs across the country to develop medicines and test are not, you know, working individually. They're probably working as teams and
Mhm.
meeting in little breakout conference rooms. And
Yeah. I mean, Nipa, what do you think about the comparison of the two groups from like either project and then longer term project? Like, who do you think is? I mean, win is a simplistic word for that, but who do you think wins?
Like project based or long term projects?
But just a per project basis. So if they have same project, same funds, same resources, but one is in office, same team, and one is in office, or one is working remotely. A per project basis, who better performs?
I mean, I think the people in the same space probably better perform eventually.
Yeah. Okay.
I think human nature is to talk about it and verbalize things.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't know how many times, even here, we've just walked around and had ideas walking around and
Yeah.
talking about it. You get them from the random conversation you might have sitting on the at the break room table talking about random things, or like you and I take walks. We take walks and we talk about stuff. So ideas come at really random times that I think that gets a little stunted when you're by yourself at home.
Yeah. I would say though, like even the video conferencing thing, I feel like I'm using it differently than expected, right? Like I'm actually using it to talk with people and kind of fill in those blanks. I know it's not the same as powerful as being in person, but when like we were talking this morning on the conferencing call, it felt like kind of the same vibe, like talking to another team member. It felt like that.
Yep.
Which like when I originally thought how we were going to use it is going to be like very, information back and forth, very direct, and then like we'd hop off.
yeah, and look, the video conference helps, right?
Yeah.
Seeing people's faces helps facilitate that. There's no question.
I agree with you though. If you aren't automation, what's that company?
Automatic is the name of the
Automatic.
company.
If you aren't Automatic, who literally has never
Yeah.
worked in an office, and we talked about this too. I think I don't know how their company structure is, but it's probably these groups, and then they have a leadership team who probably works remote, but still meet in person. Like I would assume that
Probably
like,
routinely.
yeah, like it's a leadership team. That's what we're talking about is those groups of silos of developers, sales teams. Like those can be easily proceduralized and working remote.
Yeah, and there's also a number of people where in person it doesn't make sense anymore,
Yeah.
right? Like, if once you get to 20, 30, 40 people, is there a value of them all being in the same space? Like maybe not, but for those core teams of, maybe 2 to 20, probably a lot of value in having routine in-person interactions. Now there's a downside too. Like you're going to have personality conflicts. You're going to have times when one person's attitude or emotions permeates everyone else. And you're buffered from that on a remote work situation.
Yeah, I think disconnected would be the better word.
Yeah.
Buffered.
Well, you're buffered from the negative, but you're also disconnected from the positive.
Yeah. I get. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
That
you get
makes
this
sense.
even baseline. You're less prone to the ups and downs,
Yeah.
but you're less prone to the ups.
Right.
Right. So there's I've been reading a lot of books by Brene Brown, and one of the things she talks about is if you're numbing the negatives, you're also numbing the positives. You can't just choose.
Yeah.
Everything gets numbed. And so if you're remote, that is, yeah, I think that's accurate. I think it's industry specific also what is successful. I've seen, people work remotely very successfully
Yeah, sure.
for long, long periods of time. And that is very industry specific. I think us being in a more creative environment where we do need to come up with new ideas all the time and brainstorm things all the time.
And solve relatively fast turnaround problems that aren't one-offs. Or
Right.
that are one-offs. They're not
Unique.
recurring.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're unique. We have to work through this cycle very quickly sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, so why I think working remote or having remote work jobs, at least a part of your business, I mean, very uneducated opinion piece right here. That should be like Joe's rant style, but like Kyle's uneducated opinion, is the quality of you actually open up the amount of talent and the quality of talent available. Now you're not searching just for Tallahassee. Love Tallahassee, respect, mad talent here. But statewide, nationwide, like now you have access to all these people that are very talented that can work remote.
Yeah.
So that would be one of my, a plus side of remote work.
Yep.
Especially now. I mean, people are losing their jobs like as we speak, and in larger cities. I mean, they're probably looking very hard for remote work, and I'm sure there's companies out there trying to pick up, these one-off remote workers.
Yeah. No, totally agree.
Yeah.
And you see this with the online gig economy type stuff, like, Fiverr, for example, where you can just hire a person to do a one-off, graphic or video edit or something like that. You see a shadow of it there. I think it's probably also difficult to build a culture remote.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that.
Yes, definitely.
100%.
Yeah.
Which leads to my thing that, from a employee perspective, anything that commoditizes your work, you actually want to avoid for the most part. And, one of the things I think may be true is that the easier it is for your job to be done remotely, the more that corresponds with your risk to being automated at some point. Because if your job can be done through just verbal commands or typing in a prompt and there's no interpersonal reading or anything that has to be done, if someone else can transfer a basic direction to you and you can do it, at some point you can replace that with a computer in the next 20 years maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the road's a little long on there and like relative times, but I mean,
It depends on what you're doing. What I do, just for people listening, I'm a graphic designer primarily. There are many freelancers, many people that do that from home. I know personally that I can do that for a little while, but I thrive in a agency environment where I'm around people and we're talking about things.
Another point on that though is what keeps your position would be different from like a more valuable from a freelance designer or someone on Fiverr is because you've been around here. Like there's a lot of information that you just know tacitly that doesn't have to be communicated to you each time. And we've done some stuff trying to use some gig economy things in the past for projects. And one of the frustrating parts about it is you have to be so explicit with what you want to
Yeah.
get what you want. And even for Nipa, like, experimenting with tasking those people, it's frustrating, and you have the language to describe exactly what you want.
I mean, when I deal with like part-time staff or just, hourly staff at SDS, I deal with that where I almost will be more vague and general in explaining things and then sit down and speak with them face to face to actually go through the steps, because even though like that would be the first thing you think you could proceduralize and like automate, it's actually not. It's still more beneficial to have a face-to-face conversation with somebody than try to just write a task up.
Yeah. Now some people who are very left-brain oriented would say, no, like what you actually need to do there is very carefully record the steps and then store that as a document or something like that you just hand off as a video, and then somebody just follows that.
Yeah, I'm very the supplemental approach, because you guys know me. That is me.
Yeah,
like, that is me. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Get it done. But then I've realized over the last year and a half working with more people is that not everybody is like that. We are not automated. Like, we are not AI. So like we don't just follow instructions. And there's also a human being who writes those instructions.
Yeah.
Who's inherently
so some stuff just makes sense to you
exactly.
automatically.
Yeah. And I've dealt with that a bunch.
It's like that peanut butter and jelly recipe assignment where you have to like tell people how to make peanut butter and jelly, but you actually have to tell them every little detail. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's exactly how it is. So, I mean, I am a fan from working remote during these times, but I actually do lean back to like in person as much as possible. I mean, even during
times
and look, like these.
One of the cost of coronavirus is likely to be you'll get I think burst of individual creativity, and you see this with the memes and the parody music videos, and you're gonna have somebody who writes an amazing book and comes up with amazing. That's going to happen at the individual level, individual burst of genius and creativity. What you'll have a lid on are the stuff that it takes groups and teams the ability to develop. Like you're not gonna have a groundbreaking new technology introduced during this time period.
Well,
you're not gonna have
even during our like even in our realm, like agency, like advertising agency realm, like I mean, how do you think we're gonna see the same level of like advertising campaigns? Like, are we going to see a Disney Plus advertising campaign like roll out right now? You know what I mean? Like the way they launched
because
Disney
they can't
Plus.
really produce at scale. They can't go.
So like, I mean, there's
anything.
all this space on TV right now, but the problem is like everybody's working remote. Like, how are we just going to go back to the basics, like heartbeat rhythm, and like throw that thing up there and like move on, or like are we going to have these grander scheme campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything's gonna be pretty simple for the time being.
I believe so too. All right.
Any final thoughts on working from home?
I like that
Good,
one.
bad? Yeah. Some pros, cons. I mean, I think the roundup is there's some jobs and some personalities that can do it forever. Like if you're a novel writer, probably you want to be at home all the time writing your novels.
But maybe have an office if that's your personality too, where you can go in, I think it's like taking a look at your team and at yourself and just being like, yo, is this what's working for us or not?
The thing that I found talking to people is that right now it's so different because it's
their whole family's at home.
Well, their whole family's at home, and it's that the choice is taken away. Like you can't just leave if you want to. You can't just go somewhere when you feel like, and that I think is the struggle more so than working from home right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
That is a good point.
External factors.
All right. Well, let's wrap this baby up.
Wrapped.
Done?
Yeah.
Wrapped. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this daily podcast. This will go up soon. And we will see you tomorrow.
Dailies. Yeah.
All right. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.